She wonders if Patrick believes this, but he finds it absurd, thinking everyone suspects her because of her black hair. He reveals that he was bullied as a child because everyone thought his hair was dark, but he knows that Yumilla's hair is darker. So he admires her courage, knowing society hates her because of it, but she still wears it with confidence. They have another match, but he gets blown away again, and Yumilla heals him, allowing him to recover. He tells her that she's amazing because she isn't afraid to use her dark magic, knowing everyone thinks it's evil, so it takes courage to use it. That evening, Yumilla thinks about her background, wondering if she was born with dark magic. She recalls that in the game, her character gave into the darkness, and everyone loved Alicia for using light magic, but her character tried to hide her powers because she knew that people would dislike her. But Yumilla realizes that her world is different, so there's no point thinking about it. A few days later, the students gather for another field lesson, as Patrick reminds Yumilla not to use the monster calling flute. So she promises not to use it, saying she will act as the medic, and she watches the students as they fight the monsters. One of them gets injured, so she approaches him, asking him if he wants to experience her healing magic. He tells her that he doesn't, saying he wants to drink a potion instead, but she explains that they shouldn't waste it, and she uses her magic to heal him, causing him to freak out. She realizes that everyone is afraid of her, finding this strange, because healers are usually popular. Later that day, she realizes that the lesson is too easy, thinking their method is inefficient, so she thinks about using her flute, but Patrick stops her, saying it's too dangerous. But she explains that the monsters are too weak for the students, thinking they should be pushed to their limit, so that they can level up faster. She knows that they aren't taking the lesson seriously, so she suggests hurting them, thinking it will help them focus, as she mentions that she can just heal them if it gets too serious. Patrick thinks this is a terrible idea, but she asks everyone if they want her to use the flute instead, and they agree to this, thinking it's the lesser evil. So she summons the monsters, as Patrick tells everyone to prepare for battle, leading them as they fight against the monsters. Yumilla observes them, as she realizes that she was being rude, knowing Patrick should be treated with respect, because he outranks her in terms of nobility. She realizes that he's using wind magic to carry his voice, and earth magic to hold his ground, thinking he's a brilliant leader. But she wonders how she's going to talk to him after the incident, thinking he hates her because of her actions. They're able to defeat the monsters, and everyone thanks Patrick for leading them to victory, but they completely ignore Yumilla. They return to the academy, as Yumilla realizes that nobody's talking to her, thinking she's going to return to her lonely life. But at that moment, Alicia approaches her, apologizing for calling her the Demon Lord. She's about to talk to Alicia, but Edwin tells her to stay away, thinking she was trying to kill the students during the field lessons, and he calls her a threat to the kingdom. So she considers running away, thinking everybody hates her. But Patrick suddenly appears, and he explains that she helped the students level up, saying her methods are questionable, but they can't argue with the results. He tells Edwin to stay away from her, so he decides to back down, and she notes that Patrick looks upset. She thanks him for standing up for her, and she asks him if he's angry, thinking her behavior was unacceptable, but he tells her not to think about it. He reveals that he's worried about her, because she appears to be depressed, but she tells him that she's okay, thanking him for checking up on her, as she realizes that she wants to be his friend. During the summer break, Yumilla continues training with Patrick as he teaches her how to wield the sword. But she overpowers him, causing him to get injured, so she heals him, revealing that she still can't control her strength. During their class, Yumilla's classmates approach her, asking her to help them with their assignment. They realize that she's always with Patrick, and she explains that she's helping him level up, telling them that she can help them get stronger with her method. But they become frightened, and he tells her to observe people's reactions before recommending her method. So she decides to observe the people around her, and she realizes that everyone's talking about her, thinking she has a special relationship with Patrick. She heads to the library, thinking she needs to learn more about combat, because Patrick inspired her to study strategy and leadership. While searching for a book, she encounters Alicia, who asks for help, wanting to learn how to use magic. Alicia explains that she doesn't know anything about light magic, because it's a rare element, so she can't find a book that covers it. She knows that Yumilla's magic is also unique, wondering how she learned how to use it, but she knows that she can't tell the truth because she only learned how to do it by playing the game. She thinks that it wouldn't make sense if she explained it, so she advises Alicia to recall her memories that involve light, saying she can use it to improve her magic. She mentions that she used to watch the stars with her grandmother, saying it was a beautiful scene, and she thanks Yumila for her help, saying she helped her realize something. Later that day, Patrick approaches Yumila, saying the queen has a gift for her. She realizes that the queen gave her pastries, telling him that they should eat in her room, but he becomes flustered, saying a man shouldn't enter a lady's room. So they decide to eat it in the cafeteria, where their classmates watch them, thinking they have a great relationship. After the summer break, the academy prepares for a martial arts competition, where the participants fight with their swords and display their magic powers. Yumila knows that it's an opportunity for students to show the nobles what they can do, so she doesn't want to get involved, thinking everyone must be given a chance to shine. Patrick wonders if she's going to participate, saying he isn't interested in joining. He mentions that the prize is useless because it's an amulet that enhances dark magic and she's the only one who can use it, thinking she doesn't need it because she's already overpowered. But she reveals that she wants it, so she decides to join the contest. Yumila approaches Ronald, telling him to include her as a participant as she thinks about winning the competition to receive the prize. On the day of the event, Patrick reveals that the amulet was given by the king and it's meant for Yumila, but Ronald offered it as a prize, so she realizes that he wanted her to join, thinking it's because he wants to impress the nobles with her powers. The participants gather at the arena, and we learn that the sword fighting matchups are determined by drawing lots. Edwin and William are in the left block, so they're going to be fighting against each other, but Yumila is in the right block, and William approaches her, revealing that he has been training hard. He mentions that he's already level 20, but Yumila doesn't know how to react, because she isn't impressed, so she gives him generic answers. He apologizes for being rude, because he thought she was lying about her level, but he tells her that he's determined to defeat her, so that he can become the strongest knight in the kingdom. The event begins, and Yumila enters the arena, ready to fight her opponent. She plans to hold back, so that he won't look bad, thinking he's trying to impress the nobles. We learn that she's worried about her sword, because she will lose if it's broken, revealing that she accidentally breaks weapons by swinging them around, so she picked the toughest sword she can find. She decides to test it, creating a gust of wind, but her opponent instantly gives up, knowing he doesn't stand a chance against her. She proceeds to the next round, but nobody wants to fight her, so everyone withdraws, allowing her to reach the final round. Edwin fights against William, but he ends up losing, as Yumila notes that he's a magic swordsman, but he can't use magic during the fight, so William had the advantage. In the final round, Yumila fights against William, who tells her that he won't withdraw, and she's glad to hear this, because she doesn't want to win the event by default. He reveals that he's using a new weapon, and she recognizes it, knowing it's supposed to be obtained near the end of the story, so she wonders how he acquired it. The fight begins, and William attacks Yumila, but she easily dodges, as she notes that he's already exhausted, because he isn't strong enough to use the weapon. He tells her that she does nothing but evade, and she realizes that the fight is boring, thinking she should entertain the nobles, because it's the final round. She thinks about deflecting like Patrick, but as she tries it, she realizes that her sword is about to break. So she decides to use her secret technique, shattering his sword with her fist, and we learn that her punch was so fast that low-level people couldn't see it, so he becomes confused, wondering how he lost. She's announced as the winner,